On the way home from a huge Easter family party in Charleston when I was 16, I got into a horrific accident on I-26. The doctors said I needed emergency surgery within the hour or I wouldn't make it. My mom and my little sister were at an upscale spa that afternoon. When the hospital put her on speaker, my mom's exact words were, "If she doesn't pull through, just let me know later. We're in the middle of a treatment and I'm not signing anything right now." My name is Serenity Carver, and I'm 21 now. 18 days later, when I finally opened my eyes, the chart at the foot of my bed had been quietly updated. It no longer listed my mother as my legal guardian. Someone else's name was there instead. And that new guardian was, if you've ever watched the people who are supposed to love you the most turn their backs the second you needed them, drop the words, "I've seen it" in the comments so I know I'm not the only one. Hit that subscribe button if you want to know exactly who stepped up when my own mother walked away, because the story only gets crazier from here. Let me take you back to how everything started. I grew up in a big white house on James Island just outside Charleston. My dad died of leukemia when I was 6. One week he was teaching me how to ride a bike in the driveway, the next he was gone. After the funeral, the only person who still showed up every single weekend was my mom's father, Clarence Brooks. Everyone in the county knew him as the former police chief who never really retired. He just traded the badge for a fishing rod and a porch swing. He'd pull up in his old Ford pickup, bring me shrimp and grits from his favorite spot on Shem Creek, and let me sit in the front seat while he told stories about chasing bootleggers down back roads. To me, he wasn't Grandpa Clarence. He was simply Grandpa, the one adult who never canceled. My mom, Harmony Carver, grieved for about a year. Then she met Colin Reed at some charity gala downtown. Colin owned half the new construction on Kiowa Island and drove a black Range Rover that always smelled like new leather. 2 years later, they got married in a beachfront ceremony I barely remember. 9 months after that, Haven arrived blonde, loud, and instantly the center of the universe. Suddenly, the house had a nursery, a nanny, and a whole new set of rules. My bedroom got moved to the back corner over the garage so Haven could have the bigger room with the balcony. My soccer trophies disappeared into boxes. My mom started introducing me as my older daughter instead of by name, like I was an extra in someone else's family photo. By the time I turned 14, I was basically invisible. Colin paid for everything, but he never looked at me unless I was in his way. Haven got new clothes every season. I got handed down uniforms from the private school I didn't even attend. The only place I still felt wanted was Grandpa's little brick house in West Ashley, 20 minutes across the Ravenel Bridge. He kept my old bike in his garage, kept the freezer stocked with popsicles, and never once asked why I spent every free weekend there. Easter weekend when I was 16 was supposed to be different. Grandpa threw his annual cookout, 3 long tables under the live oaks, low country boil, deviled eggs, sweet tea in mason jars. Cousins I hadn't seen in years flew in. There was music kids running everywhere, the smell of charcoal in the air. I wore the pale yellow sundress Grandpa bought me the month before because he said it matched my eyes. For a few hours it almost felt like the old days, like maybe I still belonged somewhere. Then I overheard my mom on the phone by the dessert table. She was laughing, telling someone she and Haven had booked a mother-daughter spa day the next morning, facials, massages, the whole package, and after that, they were flying to the Bahamas for spring break, just the 3 of them, her Colin and Haven. My name never came up. I stood there holding a plate of banana pudding, feeling it go cold in my hands. I told Grandpa I had a headache and needed to head home early. He tried to argue, but I could tell something was wrong, but I just wanted out. He handed me the keys to the 1998 Jeep Wrangler he'd helped me buy with my summer lifeguard money. "Drive careful, baby girl. Text me when you get there." I promised I would. It was already getting dark when I hit I-26 westbound. A spring storm rolled in fast, the way they do in the low country. Sky turned green, rain coming down in sheets, windshield wipers going full speed and still losing the battle. Traffic slowed to a crawl. I had the radio up loud to keep myself awake, some old country song Grandpa loved, headlights blurred into streaks of white and red. I never saw the tractor trailer until it was too late. The driver hydroplaned, jackknifed across 3 lanes and slammed into the driver's side of my Jeep, doing at least 60. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The world flipped twice, roof caving in before it finally slid to a stop upside down against the median. I remember the seatbelt cutting into my shoulder, the taste of blood, the sudden silence after the crash, and then nothing at all. Somewhere far away, sirens started screaming toward me. The emergency room at MUSC was pure chaos. Doctors shouted codes, monitors screamed, someone kept yelling for more O negative. They wheeled me straight into Trauma Bay 1. My clothes were cut off in seconds. Needles went into both arms, tubes down my throat. A surgeon in blood-spattered scrubs leaned over me and said, my pelvis was shattered, spleen, ruptured, bleeding inside my skull, and I had less than an hour before things went irreversible. They needed parental consent to take me to the OR right now. A nurse with kind eyes held my phone, scrolled to Mom, and hit FaceTime. The call connected on the 3rd ring. I heard spa music and the low hum of massage chairs. My mother's face appeared, sheet mask still on, cucumber slices over her eyes. Haven was sprawled on the table next to her earbuds in scrolling TikTok. Mrs. Reed, this is Nurse Alvarez at MUSC Trauma, the nurse said, angling the camera so Harmony could see my face covered in blood and the ventilator tube. Your daughter has been in a severe accident. She has life-threatening injuries and requires immediate surgery. We need verbal consent now, or she may not survive the next hour. Harmony peeled one cucumber slice off and squinted at the screen. Haven pulled an earbud out and leaned over to look. The doctor stepped in. Ma'am, we're looking at multiple fractures, internal bleeding, possible brain swelling. We have to open her up immediately. Harmony sighed like someone had just asked her to move her car. If she doesn't make it, just call me when it's over, she said, voice flat. We're in the middle of a treatment and I'm not driving all the way downtown to sign papers. Haven let out a short, sharp laugh, covered her mouth, then snapped a screenshot of my battered face on the gurney. I watched her thumbs fly across the screen. Later, I would learn the caption she sent her group chat was finally some peace. The nurse's hand trembled, holding the phone. A doctor behind her muttered, Jesus Christ. Someone else whispered, get that recorded. The nurse tried again. Ma'am, this is a legal requirement for a minor. I heard you, Harmony cut in. Call my father. Clarence Brooks. He'll handle it. We paid for a full day here. She ended the call. The trauma team stared at the blank screen. One resident looked ready to throw the phone across the room. They scrolled to the next emergency contact, Grandpa. His old Ford pickup was already on the road when the hospital reached him. He'd been sitting on his porch cleaning shrimp for tomorrow's supper. The second he heard Serenity and Critical, he dropped everything and floored it across the Ashley River Bridge, still wearing rubber boots and an apron stained with fish blood. Rain hammered the windshield. Lightning lit up the sky. He made the 25-minute drive in 16. He burst through the ER doors, soaked to the bone, badge from 30 years ago, still clipped to his belt out of habit. The charge nurse took one look at the retired chief and waved him straight through. He signed every consent form they shoved in front of him without reading a single line, hand shaking so hard the pen scratched the paper. They let him into the bay long enough to see me, tubes everywhere, face swollen beyond recognition. He leaned close to my ear and whispered the same thing he used to say when I had nightmares as a little kid. I've got you, baby girl. Grandpa's right here. Then they rushed me to surgery. He pulled a metal chair up to the glass wall outside the operating room and sat down. He didn't move for the next 9 hours. Not when the nurses offered coffee, not when the waiting room emptied, not when the storm outside knocked the power out for 12 minutes and the backup generators kicked on. When they finally wheeled me to ICU just before dawn, he followed the bed, still holding the same cold hand that had gone limp hours earlier. The next 18 days became the longest of Grandpa's life. ICU smelled like antiseptic and fear. Machines hissed and beeped in a rhythm that never let anyone forget how thin the line was. Grandpa claimed the vinyl recliner beside my bed and refused to leave. Nurses tried to send him home the first night. He just showed them the old badge still in his wallet and said, "I'm not going anywhere." After that, nobody argued. He slept in 30-minute bursts, head tipped back, mouth open, boots still on. When he woke, he talked to me nonstop, voice low, so the monitors wouldn't drown him out. He told me about the night I was born, how he held me first because my mom was too exhausted. He retold the story of the summer I was 8, and we caught a 5-foot shark off Folly Beach Pier, how I screamed until he let me reel it in myself. He read aloud from the worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird he kept in the truck, doing all the voices. Some evenings he just hummed the old hymn his own mother sang when he was little, the one that always put me to sleep on his couch. Doctors came and went. One morning the neurologist said the swelling in my brain was down. Another afternoon the orthopedic surgeon warned the pelvis might never heal straight. Grandpa listened, nodded, asked questions sharp enough to make residents sweat, then went right back to holding my hand like nothing had changed. On day 16, the numbers finally started moving the right way. My blood pressure stabilized. The ventilator settings dropped. A nurse caught Grandpa smiling for the first time in 2 weeks. That same afternoon, while he leaned close, whispering that the redfish were running and we'd go fishing the minute I woke up, a tall man in a navy suit appeared at the glass door. Mr. Donovan had worked cases with Grandpa 25 years ago. They still played poker once a month. Grandpa looked up, saw the folder in Donovan's hand, and gave one slow nod. No words needed. Donovan left the hospital, got in his silver Lexus, and drove straight to James Island. He knew the address by heart. Harmony and Haven were in the foyer, surrounded by designer luggage. 2 matching pink suitcases sat by the door, tags already attached for a 7-night Royal Caribbean cruise, leaving Charleston Harbor the next morning. Colin was upstairs on a work call. Haven was filming herself twirling in a new sundress for Instagram. Harmony was double-checking passports. The doorbell rang. Donovan introduced himself, handed over the thick envelope, and waited while Harmony ripped it open. Inside were 2 sets of papers: emergency petition to strip parental rights for medical neglect of a minor and a civil suit filed by the hospital for extraordinary life-saving expenses plus pain and suffering. Both named Harmony Reed, and because Haven was 14 and had actively participated in the refusal, her as well. Harmony's face went white under the spray tan. Haven stopped recording mid-spin. "You have 72 hours to respond," Donovan said, voice calm. "After that, the judge has already agreed to an emergency hearing." Harmony started yelling about lawyers and mistakes, and how dare anyone question her parenting. Haven burst into dramatic tears, claiming she didn't mean anything by the texts. Donovan simply turned and walked back to his car. Inside the house, Harmony slid down the wall, clutching the papers, mascara running black rivers down her cheeks. Haven kept screaming that this would ruin her spring break. Colin came downstairs, took one look at the documents, and went pale. Back at the hospital, Grandpa never mentioned the visitor. He just kept holding my hand, humming that same old hymn, waiting for the day my eyes would open. 2 days later, I opened my eyes for the first time. Everything hurt. My mouth tasted like metal and plastic. Machines still beeped, but softer now. The first face I saw was Grandpa's unshaven eyes, red-rimmed, grinning so wide I thought his cheeks would split. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered, voice cracking. "Welcome back." I tried to speak. Nothing came out except a rasp. He pressed the call button, then lifted the whiteboard at the foot of the bed so I could read it. In black marker, big bold letters, "Legal Guardian Clarence Brooks." I stared until the words blurred. Tears rolled sideways into my ears. He wiped them away with a thumb that still smelled faintly of shrimp and salt air. Over the next hours, between nurses checking vitals and doctors shining lights in my eyes, he told me everything. The FaceTime call, My mother's exact words. Haven screenshot. The papers served while I lay unconscious. He didn't sugarcoat any of it, he never had. I cried again, harder this time. Not from pain, but from relief so deep it felt like drowning in reverse. 3 weeks later, they let me go home. Not to James Island, but to Grandpa's little gray house on stilts in Folly Beach, 15 minutes south of the city. The salt air hit my lungs the second he carried me over the threshold. My new bedroom used to be his fishing tackle room. He'd painted the walls pale blue and hung the same wind chimes we'd made when I was 9. From the window I could see the ocean rolling in steady and endless. Physical therapy started the following Monday. I learned to sit up then, stand then shuffle behind a walker while Grandpa spotted me like I was 2 years old again. He cooked shrimp and grits every night because it was soft enough for my wired jaw. We watched the sunset from the porch swing his arm around my shoulders, neither of us needing to fill the quiet. One afternoon my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The screen showed Mom. I stared at it for 10 rings. Grandpa watched from the doorway, saying nothing. I pressed decline, set the phone face down, and went back to the porch. That was the only time she ever tried. Across town, Colin filed for divorce the same week. His company had just landed a massive contract with the Port Authority. The last thing he needed was headlines about child abandonment tied to his name. He moved out of the James Island house before the ink dried, taking only his clothes and the golf clubs. Haven lost her mind on social media for about 3 days, then went radio silent when colleges started pulling scholarship offers. Grandpa never brought it up unless I asked. When I did, he answered straight. They made their choice, Ren. Now we make ours. Some nights the pain woke me screaming. He'd shuffle in wearing old police academy sweats, sit on the edge of the bed, and hold my hand until the meds kicked in. Other nights I woke to the sound of him praying out loud in the living room, voice rough, asking God to give him enough years to see me whole again. By the time the stitches came out and the casts turned to braces, I could walk the length of the pier without stopping. Grandpa bought 2 rods and a bucket of shrimp. We sat at the end where the water turns deep green lines in the water, not catching much, but not caring. The sun burned the last of the hospital smell off my skin. I looked out at the horizon one evening, wind whipping my hair across my face, and realized I wasn't waiting for anything anymore. No apology, no explanation, no second chance I never wanted to give. The ocean just kept moving, same as always. A couple of months later, the preliminary hearing